Well, sorry. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call please.
Tony Biancardi,
Here.
Jim Constantine,
Here.
and Angie Scott is absent.
All right, approval of our June 21 meeting
Make a
minutes.
motion to approve the minutes of June 21st.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Do we have any correspondence this month?
No.
Okay. Engineer reports? No reports. Okay. Under old business, the future infrastructure projects, again, just for the record and anyone that might be watching, this is always on there so that we don't lose sight of those projects. And Jim and I were just having that conversation about, you know, where we go from here, if at some point we talked about a fee. And so probably having some projects and some sort of a plan in mind is something that we would want to do, I suppose, once we get through the Harbor Storm. So keeping that in mind. MS4 program progress. Anything to report on that?
The only thing I would have is what, Jim corresponded with us on, and Corinne put out for the permit, permit that we, application. That's one thing I would say.
Yeah, the erosion and sediment control permit, I emailed that again to you. That's what, the form that we discussed
That's
last meeting with
Okay.
them and the proposed fees. And then, there's the stormwater quality management plan, part B, the baseline characterization, which it looks like Shem drafted something and sent it. Bill is the operator. You'll have to, I guess, look it over and use your signature and date. And then it'll have to be submitted item.
Talked about it, I was just looking to make sure the report was good before we sign it.
With the part B?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I would have to defer to the engineers that it's good and you, right?
Yeah, and I don't think it was sent to Tony or Jim. Did you have any edits on it after?
When I talked about it and I went through it and. It's nothing.
Wait, is that something you feel like you should be included on to look at? I feel like it's a more technical document, but I haven't seen it.
I have a copy of it here.
You emailed that to us, didn't you?
Not that one, no.
That's one I saw in your email.
I think that you.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Oh, this one too, this is the part B she's talking about, Shem did, and Bill signs and we'll turn it in. You probably didn't get it there. That's what I'm saying though, it's that's why I'm just asking if you felt like it was necessary to. Okay.
Be asking them.
Well, and that's why I'm saying, I feel like I have to defer to you all that it's correct, and if it's not, then we fix it. You know, figure that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to check. I didn't know if there was anything on there. All right, so the part B, we feel like is okay, so Bill could sign it. Yeah, Jim, this document that Shem did and just the state form. Bill, you're good with it?
Yep.
Okay, but we've got the application that you sent us. And do we need to do something with that tonight?
I don't think so. I mean, it does involve adopting fees, so.
And that's been in an ordinance yet,
Correct.
okay.
One thing I would like to say on that is, we have had people that ask us what our process is and what our application, if we have that in place. And we've told them that we're, pretty much our response has been, we're a new MS4 right now and we're getting all that established, so just so the board knows that.
Yeah. Did you model this after another one? Like the application?
Shem did that. I
Oh,
did
I'm
not,
sorry, Shem did.
yeah, create that one.
Let me correct me if I'm wrong, didn't he bring that up at the?
Yeah, I'm looking at it now, cause I'm looking at the fees at the bottom, and those were like Indiana, like state
Yeah.
fees or something, right? So, Clay, how should we handle the fee then? Do we need to have a public hearing here?
Have we had fees at the stormwater before?
No. Mm-mm. We haven't ever really had anything.
No,
I don't
so
even think we have a chapter in the,
that's what was just added, I believe, in with that stormwater management. that the
Okay.
council just
right,
adopted in
right, so
second
we'll have
reading.
that, so we would have something to add fees to, like we could put a table at the end and refer to fees.
So I think the ordinance would also need to direct where the funds are going to. Because there's not a fund for that right now,
Okay,
so we need to think about.
I would suggest, and partly because the board only meets every other month,
mhm,
would be better for the town council, especially since they're ultimately responsible for passing that ordinance.
okay. Is that something that you could draft for our next meeting?
The next council meeting,
Draft, and then if it's good, we can set it for a public hearing for
Yeah.
the following meeting.
if you wanna give me the
Yeah.
details on that.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I'll look at the chapter and
Should
I,
we,
mhm.
should we look into find out what Chessman charges and border charges to get an idea?
Oh, you mean what they charge their residents?
Right.
We could start looking at that. We won't include it in this one. This one is the, like, when they do the application, there's a $500
Yeah.
plan review,
Yeah, I
but
read that.
I mean, we could start looking at what neighboring communities are charging.
Cause it's gonna start to get expensive when we
Yes.
start doing serious work.
Right, right. Okay, I'll send you something, Clay,
Okay,
and then if you can make it look like it's supposed to. We'll do that at the council meeting. I'll have Jane put that on the agenda. Otherwise, I mean, again, the form, I feel like if it's good, and if it needed to be edited later, if we notice something, we could always do that.
So I have a question, if
Yeah.
I may. When someone is applying for this permit, are they gonna be coming to the stormwater board for it, or are they gonna go to the building department?
typically. Communities. But then because it's gone through plan review and everything, and so when they do that, it's kind of like we do current with the sanitary where they have to show proof of having that. Before they can have their building release, that can be done at the building department, that form becoming part of that.
Mhm.
Most certainly it's depending on what process we want to do, but
I agree. Lori has these great folders that she gives out that have all of the papers in it that would be necessary. If we were to include this, that way it stays together, but then whoever needs it would, get a copy, so Bill would know, or the engineers would know.
Okay, but this is only applicable for over 10,000 square feet or more, right?
large
Okay.
projects.
Okay.
So
If she doesn't have, I imagine she has like a commercial folder.
yeah, she has them for the property, so the way she files it is like if you come in and say, and I'll use this one, that's currently over the acreage in the village where they're gonna do this next phase. So she has a folder for that already, and she kind of puts that in there. But when they apply for that, and this is the reason why most people are doing it through their building department and then coincide that they're in the support department, because especially us being a smaller community, some of the late work, but the follow-up on that of making sure that their erosion control is in place and that their MS4 coordinator is reporting to us. So it's kind of good that it goes through the building department for those reasons, but Brent's absolutely right, that part is for your larger developments, not the general homeowner.
I think it makes sense though to have one file, not have multiple. I mean, I guess eventually you'd have to make it back to the building department to be.
Okay, just thinking out loud.
Yeah, no. Okay, so Clay and I will work on the public hearing for the fees that are in that application. For the town council meeting next month, so a draft and then. hopefully we can have the public hearing the following month. Harbor Road storm sewers.
Well,
Who broke the camera?
the camera broke itself. So we did get it cleaned, as you guys may or may not be aware of, to where we got actually the whole line all the way through, to Babcock Road. We were able to clean it out until we didn't see, obviously, we saw some sediment, but not a lot, enough to where we felt that we could view it. Got the camera ready, it worked at the shop, pulled the camera out, took it to put it in the hole. Started to go down the pipe and it went black on us. Pulled it out, tried to fix it, what we could do, couldn't do it. Long story short, that's what they called the company, troubleshooted it. We did a few things, reset, reboots. They can't do nothing else without sending the camera back to them. The problem is they don't need just the camera, they need the whole unit. So we gotta package it up and freight it up and send it to Wisconsin. So back to source one. So the cost of that is unknown because of the freight and all that stuff in today's world. But if I had to guess, I'm guessing probably $300, $400, $500 maybe, in shipping freight. There's a possibility that it might be cheaper to drive it up there to Wisconsin and deliver it to them. It's only, I Googled it, 3.5 hour drive there and 3.5 hour drive back. Be done in a day's time and go back and pick it up. That may be the better way, because otherwise I have to order freight and freight packaging and all that stuff, which adds to the expense.
Do you know how long they'll keep it?
They said it's a cable, sometimes it's just a splice that they could fix. You're talking fiber optic cables. Sometimes it's a splice, if it's a software issue. Either way, I told them that you would have to give me a quote if it gets costly, before repairs are done. So again, we won't know nothing. It could be a turnaround in 24 hours. It could be, they won't know until they look at it, I guess is the bad part.
What does Eagle charge to camera?
I did not get a quote, but I do know last time it was just about the same as the shop rate per hour. It was pretty expensive, about $2,000.
Yeah, but my concern is we've cleaned that line and no telling how long we're gonna wait.
Yeah.
We need to camera it now before we have to clean it again. Or the fall comes, or like we've gotten a ton of rain, if there was a break, it could already be blocked. I know we've already spent some money and we have money set for that budget, but.
Wouldn't hurt.
Because by the time we send this one up and get it fixed, if it's filled again, we're gonna spend another $10,000.
It could be a week, it could be 3 weeks.
It'll stall the project regardless, at least we'll know to what degree, in the spots that we would need.
Well, if somebody wants to, I don't know how the board wants to do it, if somebody wants to be ready to approve that, I can most certainly reach out. I'm sorry I didn't do that because.
No, to Eagle.
Yeah, I can reach out.
Well, I think if, Jim, if you wanted to make a motion to, have Eagle camera the line, not to exceed.
I would say,
3,000.
I would shoot for a 2-day issue, a 2-day camera in case we ran into issues. We got it cleaned in 1 day, but camera, you wanna go a lot slower because you're trying to get video footage. And if you run into an issue, so I would shoot again for a 2-day camera, and hoping that we could be done in 1 day.
So what dollar do you think?
I didn't ask them, so I would say start out with $5,000, see if we could beat that price under it. But
Okay, obviously.
yeah, if it's cheaper, it's cheaper. I don't think we'll exceed that.
Okay.
We'd be able to, I make a motion, we approve Eagle to run a camera through it not to exceed $5,000.
I'll second that.
In the
any,
meantime, I'll also be asking, just so you know, the sanitary board to approve me to get the camera.
oh yeah, we need to get it fixed for sure, but in the meantime, like I said, if it's broke, if there's something happening in that line. We'll lose time
Yeah.
and money.
Especially with the storm.
Yeah.
We'll take care of that in about 30 minutes.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, anything else on that? So we really need to wait to see what they look like.
Yes.
Okay. All right, 2024 budget, our projected revenue for the CCI sewer is 13,254. Are you asking in the budget, do we just need to say how much we want to spend for the budget?
Yeah, I'm assuming in the last few years, we've appropriated the whole fund, basically, for spending if you should need it.
Right.
So I guess we would need to know that, and I know you have budget meetings tomorrow,
Right.
so that's something to think about, to tell Jane what you want appropriated, and also what you want to ask for from the general fund for whatever MS4 engineering expenses, printing, travel, yada, yada.
Yeah, did you come up with that number, Glenn?
For meeting travel.
Training,
The training, I just did the 2 classes that
yeah,
we did, and so, I mean, that was pretty much the same as we did. And I really think $500 would be
training,
for travel expenses, hotel. And then another 500 for the training, I think would be sufficient.
and then, I mean,
$1,000 travel.
I was saying, do you think upwards of 1,000 for printing of material?
I suggested budgeting 1,000 for printing.
So when we meet tomorrow, I'll request 2,000 from the general fund for MS4, and then to use everything we have, or appropriate everything we
Sure.
have.
Now, keep in mind, you can't pay for engineering expenses from CCI sewer,
Yes.
so.
Okay, I'll mention that as well. So we'll know that it's either sanitation or general.
Something came to mind when I was looking at this here. We'd already approved $10,000 for the work that they just did.
Correct.
And they only spent 2,000.
Really? Really? Oh, well,
Mhm.
good.
So now, did we really need to make that motion?
Yes, because it's a separate job. But that's, I guess I wasn't paying attention to that.
I just looked at it.
That'd be a good thing, Ellen. But Jim and I were having the conversation earlier about how most communities do have an MS4 fee, which is where we would get the money for training and those kinds of things. And just for the record, and again, if anyone's watching, to know that the revenue we bring in from taxes really isn't more than $13,000 a year. And the Hagelin Road project alone is probably gonna be about 200,000. So when the board decides to do that or investigate that, it really is to be able to maintain, the infrastructure that we have. So,
Would the town be eligible for any kind of bonds or funds from the government for a large project like that?
I imagine in some ways, depending on what it is, there are different grants, like for instance.
Grants,
Yeah, this particular project, we're using the ARP funds that we received during COVID. So there are different things like that. Sometimes they're very specific where we might not meet the qualifications. But I would definitely suggest in all departments where you can find matching monies or free money that we should definitely look into
That'd be
it.
something we could tell our residents that we're trying
Sure,
this before we actually
yeah.
try to get funds.
Or both, because we'll need a lot to maintain the systems. Okay. Financial report, we only spent 2,000 of the 10 that we approved for cleaning and did it all at once, so now we'll camera that. Any questions on that?
We might have to reach in there again after we run a camera, because it might be more that has to be done.
Sure. Yeah, we might need to, but I'm glad we're gonna camera now and not wait, because
Yeah.
that to be fixed.
Yeah, if we do decide that it's able to be lined. That's the method the board decides to go after we get to better sight on it. That will be part of that project, Jim, because it will have to be completely cleaned.
Yeah.
So at that point, to be adhered to that and to be able to blow that in, so, this cleaning was just so we could get through and get it.
Right, to get a camera through to see just what it does need.
Correct.
Approval of claims with two or more signatures.
I make a motion, we approve the claims.
I'll second that motion. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Go to the order of the community and any other business. I don't have any special announcements, other than our next meeting will be in October.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye.